Have you ever wondered what happens when you give your dog the weirdest products ever invented? Well, I did exactly that. And let's just say, things got hilariously unpredictable. It all started one lazy Sunday afternoon when I was scrolling through my phone, sipping on a cup of coffee, and watching my dogs nap peacefully on the couch. They looked adorable, but a little too peaceful. The kind of peaceful that makes you think, okay, they're plotting something. I laughed to myself and kept scrolling, and then I stumbled upon an online ad that said, "Top 10 weirdest dog products you won't believe exist." Of course, I had to click. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I had ordered a bunch of strange dog products, things I didn't even know existed. Dog sunglasses, a talking bark collar, a bacon-scented bubble machine, a self-fetching ball launcher, doggy shoes with built-in LED lights, and even a special dog hammock that hangs from the car windows. It was ridiculous, exciting, and a little embarrassing. But I had a plan. I was going to test all these products on my dogs and record their reactions. When the boxes arrived a few days later, my living room looked like a pet store had exploded. My dogs, Max, a golden retriever with too much energy, and Luna, a calm but curious beagle, sat there staring at the pile with their heads tilted as if asking, "What is all this?" I started with the dog sunglasses. They were tiny, shiny, and came with an adjustable strap. The moment I tried to put them on Max, he wriggled and shook his head so hard that the glasses flew across the room. Luna, on the other hand, stood perfectly still as if she knew she was being pampered. Once the glasses were on, she looked like a dog straight out of a fashion magazine, calm, cool, and just a bit judgmental. I snapped a few pictures and she strutted around like a celebrity. Max, meanwhile, kept chasing his reflection, trying to figure out why he suddenly looked so fancy. Next up was the talking collar. This was the one I was most excited about. Supposedly, it could translate barks into human language. I knew it was probably just a gimmick, but I was too curious not to try. I strapped it around Max's neck and waited. He barked once, and the collar immediately blurted out, "I'm hungry!" I burst out laughing. Then Luna barked, and her collar said, "Let's play!" The timing was so perfect that I couldn't stop giggling. For the next hour, I kept encouraging them to bark just to hear what the collar would say. Of course, I knew it wasn't real translation, but hearing my dogs talk felt oddly delightful. Then came the bubble machine. But not just any bubble machine. This one released bacon-scented bubbles. As soon as I turned it on, the air filled with little shimmering bubbles that smelled faintly like breakfast. Max froze for a second, sniffed the air, and then went into full-on excitement mode. He jumped, snapped at the bubbles, and chased them around the room. Luna joined in too, barking and wagging her tail like a puppy. The entire room was filled with laughter, chaos, and the soft pop-pop-pop of bubbles bursting. It was one of those moments that you wish you could bottle up and keep forever. Pure joy, pure fun, and absolutely ridiculous. After the bubbles came the self-fetching ball launcher. I thought this one would be a dream come true, especially for Max, who could play fetch for hours. I set it up in the backyard, placed a tennis ball inside, and pressed the button. The ball shot out with surprising force, flying across the yard. Max bolted after it like a rocket, retrieved it, and dropped it back in the launcher. For a moment, I was amazed. It actually worked. But then, as the machine prepared to fire again, Max stood too close, and the ball bonked him right on the nose. He yelped, backed away, and looked at me as if to say, "Why would you do this to me?" I couldn't stop laughing, even as I comforted him with treats. Luna, watching from the side, seemed to find the whole thing beneath her dignity. The next product was the LED dog shoes. They were meant to protect your dog's paws while lighting up at night. I slipped them onto Max's paws first. He stood still, confused, then took one step and lifted his feet high into the air like he was walking on hot lava. Luna, on the other hand, seemed oddly okay with them, though she kept looking down, fascinated by the little colored lights blinking on her feet. When I turned off the lights in the room, it looked like two tiny disco balls were walking around. I laughed until my sides hurt. By now, my dogs were starting to think this was some sort of strange new game. They'd sit still when I brought out a new product, waiting to see what would happen next. That's when I brought out the last item, the car window hammock. It looked like a small swing that attached to the inside of the car, letting the dog rest comfortably while looking outside. I set it up, placed Luna inside, and gently closed the door. She looked out the window, ears flapping in the breeze, looking more peaceful than I'd ever seen her. Max tried to climb in too, but his big size made the hammock sag dramatically. I had to take him out before the whole thing snapped. Still, for Luna, it was perfect. She loved every second of her little car throne. After testing all the products, I sat on the floor surrounded by opened boxes, packaging, and a pair of half-chewed dog shoes. My dogs were panting happily, tails wagging, and the house smelled faintly like bacon bubbles. I realized that while many of these products were silly, they had brought us hours of fun and laughter. The sunglasses might not stay on for long, but they made for great photos. The talking collar didn't really translate barks, but it gave us moments of unexpected humor. The bubble machine was pure magic, a hit with both dogs and humans alike. The ball launcher worked, until it didn't. The LED shoes, a fashion disaster, but an unforgettable one. And the car hammock? A quiet success for my little beagle queen. What struck me most was how my dogs responded not just to the products, but to the attention, the energy, and the shared excitement. They didn't care whether something was weird or normal, expensive or cheap. They just cared about being part of the fun. Testing these weird products reminded me of something simple yet profound. Joy often hides in the most unexpected places. Sometimes it's in a flying tennis ball, a bubble that smells like bacon, or even a pair of blinking shoes. Other times it's in the way your dogs look at you, tails wagging, eyes bright, saying without words, "This is the best day ever." After everything, I gathered up the products and set them aside, but my heart felt full. I had spent a whole day laughing, playing, and connecting with my dogs in ways I never had before. I realized that these little experiments weren't just about testing strange inventions. They were about creating memories, the kind you don't forget, the kind that live in your heart long after the products are gone. That night, as I lay on the couch, both Max and Luna snuggled beside me, tired from the day's adventures. The house was quiet, except for their soft breathing. I looked at them and smiled, thinking about how something as simple as testing weird dog products had turned into one of the most entertaining days of my life. It wasn't about finding the perfect product or proving if they worked. It was about enjoying the moment, embracing the silliness, and realizing that happiness doesn't always come from what makes sense. Sometimes it comes from what makes you laugh, because in the end, the weirdest things often bring out the best memories. And that day, surrounded by laughter, flying bubbles, and glowing dog shoes, I found a little reminder that joy, just like love, doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be shared.